Senator Dziedzic.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with and Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, I ask you kindly to stand. As you know, members, usually we have a member of our clergy come forward and give us a prayer. But from time to time, we take a moment to do our own silent prayers and reflect. Today is such a time. So what I'd ask you to do is to pause for a moment of silent prayer and reflection and allow us to center ourselves for a day of productivity. Following that prayer or reflection, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thanks, members. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, members. The Secretary will take the roll.
Abler, Anderson, Barr, Bolden, Carlson, Champion, Coleman, Swadzinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Drazkowski, Duckworth, Dziedzic, Eichhorn, Farnsworth, Fateh, Frentz, Green, Grunhagen, Gustafson, Hochschild, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Jasinski, Johnson, Klein, Coran, Kroon, Kunish, Kupek, Lang, Latz, Liskey, Limmer, Lucero, Mann, Marty, Matthews, Make-Wade, McEwen, Miller, Mitchell, Mohammed, Morrison, Murphy, Nelson, Umuver-Baton, Pappas, Pa, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rasmussen, Rest, Seeberger, Utke, Weber, Wiesenberg, Westland, Westrom, Wickland, Zhang.
Members, the following members intend to vote pursuant to Rule 14.1 under Rule 40.7, Duckworth, Herr, Lang, Mann, and Port. Members, a quorum is present. As usual, members, if you want to follow along, please feel free to pick up a Senate agenda that is dated Sunday, May 21st. Members, we will start at the 8th order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills. The bills listed on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Members, we'll now proceed to the 9th order of business, motions and resolutions. We will adopt the author's motion as one. All in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Pappas for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am super thrilled to move that House File 669 be withdrawn from the Committee on Finance, given a second reading and placed on general orders.
Members, Senator Pappas moves that House File 669 be withdrawn from the Committee on Finance, given a second reading and placed on general orders. All in favor? Any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, House File 669 is before us. The Secretary will give House File 669 a second reading.
House File number 669.
Second reading. Members, the Secretary will report Resolution number 58.
Senators Dziedzic and Johnson introduced Senate Resolution number 58, a Senate resolution relating to conduct of Senate business during the interim between sessions.
Senator Dziedzic, to that motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt Senate Resolution number 58.
Senator Dziedzic, please explain the resolution.
Members, this is the longer resolution that is on your desk. This is boilerplate language. Senate Resolution 58 allows the Senate to conduct business between sessions. This is the same form as the resolutions that we've done in previous years.
Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the secretary will take the roll on Senate Resolution number 58. Members, please vote. Members, just so you know, this is our Senate resolution for between 1 year versus the other is boilerplate language. Senator Kunis, are you doing the individuals who are voting pursuant to Rule 40.7? Or is that Senator Bowden? Senator Bowden, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report that Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Mann votes aye.
Senator Mann votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye. Senator Jasinski, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Duckworth votes aye.
Senator Duckworth votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote? I see. I'm sorry. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There have been 64 ayes and 0 noes. The Senate resolution is adopted. Members, the secretary will report Senate concurrent resolution number 7.
Senators Dietzick and Johnson introduce Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 7, a Senate concurrent resolution relating to adjournment of the House of Representatives and Senate until 2024.
Senator Dietzick for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 7.
To that motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is the shorter of the two resolutions on your desk, and it sets that when we adjourn on tomorrow, May 22nd, that we will adjourn until Monday, February 12th, 2024.
Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Remaining under the order of business of motions and resolutions, Senator Dietzick to take up the confirmation calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to take up the confirmation calendar.
On that motion, Senator Latz. Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion prevails. Now, Senator Latz.
Mr. President, members, I am super thrilled to move that the Senate do now consent to and confirm the appointments of the notaries public, as reported in the Senate Journal for January 4th, 2023.
Senator Latz.
Members, this will confirm all of the notaries public in the state of Minnesota, so they, as of that reported journal date, so they can continue to operate as notaries public.
Senator Latz, are you doing the one for May 20th or the one for January 4th?
Mr. President, January 4th, 2023. And then I will
that's the one that
subsequently do the next one.
Got it. Any further discussion on this confirmation or the senator motion, Senator Latz motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Latz to the second confirmation motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now consent and confirm the appointments of the notaries public as reported in the Senate Journal for May 20th, 2023.
Any additional discussion on that motion, Senator Latz? Any Any other discussion from anyone on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Remaining under the order of business and motions and resolutions, we will revert to the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House has adopted the recommendation or report of the Conference Committee on House File Number 1938 and repassed said bill in accordance with the report of the committee, so adopted. House File Number 1938, a bill for an act relating to financing and operation of state and local government, modifying provisions governing individual income and corporate franchise taxes, federal conformity, property taxes, certain state aid and credit programs, etc. House File Number 1938 is herewith transmitted to the Senate. Signed, Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
I'm calling on Senator Rest for a motion. Senator Rest for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the foregoing recommendation and conference committee report on House File Number 1938 be now adopted and the bill be repassed as amended by the conference committee. I ask for a roll call.
Senator Rest moves that the foregoing recommendations and conference committee report on House File 1938 be now adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the conference committee. Senator Rest, to your motion.
I don't think he heard you ask for a roll call. He didn't hear you ask for a roll call.
Mr. President, did you hear that I asked for a roll call?
Roll call requested, roll call granted.
Thank
to
you
your
very-
motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. During our interruption last night, discovered a couple of things about the 2023 tax bill. For the first time ever, the word logarithm will appear in Minnesota statutes, along with the phrase cube root. There are at least 4 of you that know about that and where it is in the bill, and you can inform your colleagues. I'm going to talk about briefly what's in this bill, but in a way that we probably don't think about it. I am a fan of David Letterman from the very beginning of his career. And often on his programs, he talked about lists of 10 things. And that's what I'm going to do today. 10 reasons to vote for House File 1938. Over in the other body, Representative Davids names a bill. He gives a name to the tax bill on occasion. He did that last night. It was not very flattering. So I have decided to do the same thing, and I'm going to call the 2023 tax bill the top 10 tax bill. Number 1, the child tax credit. Number 2, the renter's credit reform. Number 3, the rebate. Number 4, the public safety aid. Number 5, the increase in LGA, CPA, and the new tribal aid. Number 4, 4D, low-income apartments, and including now community land trusts. Number 7, Social Security improvements. Number 8, local sales taxes, letting the people decide if they want to impose a tax on themselves. Number 9, tax increment financing, including the general law changes proposed by the state auditor's office. And number 10, changes in e-pull tabs, providing $61 million in tax relief while affirming the 2012 deal with the tribes and the charities. Mr. President and members, I ask for a green vote.
Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, on your desks are letters of support from MPPOA, Minnesota Chiefs, and firefighters for the $300 million in public safety aid. Last week, we debated the Judiciary and Public Safety Omnibus bill, and I heard many members talk about what our law enforcement really needs is money and resources. Well, here it is. Every city, county, and tribal nation in our state will receive money for public safety purposes. Money can be used for violent crime prevention, training, victim services, first responder wellness, equipment, recruitment, retainment funds for police officers, and much more. Also on your desks are the dollar amounts each of your cities and counties will receive. We have reached out across the state to let all of the departments know that these funds are coming. And this, needless to say, is welcome news for all of our police departments, fire departments, and all of our districts. This is something I've worked on for several months with the House and Senate Judiciary, Public Safety Committees, the BCA, the Commissioner, local law enforcement departments. This is what our communities have been asking for. This is what many members in this chamber have been asking for. And it's one thing to say you support our police and fire departments. It's another thing and a better thing to give them $300 million to do what they need to keep all of us safe. In my community, I know Lino Lakes and Centennial PD will use this to recruit badly needed police officers. White Bear Lake needs an ambulance. Vadnais Heights will likely put it towards their contract with Ramsey County Sheriff Department. Every city knows what they need to keep their communities safe. They will have local control over these dollars, and this bill makes sure that they have the money to keep us all safe. I want to thank Senator Ann Rest and the Tax Committee for their hard work, especially staff and the hours of time and talent that they put into this bill. I want to thank Senator Umer Verbaeten, Senator Latz, and Representative Frazier for helping us get the language right. Again, I will remind every member in the chamber to take a look at the dollar amounts that are going to your police, fire departments, and city councils. And whether or not you vote for this bill, that money is coming. I hope you will vote green. Thank you.
Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, members, many of us on both sides of the aisle fought hard for the elimination of the tax on Social Security benefits. We all did. Many of us did. But this is much more than a bipartisan issue. It speaks to more than to those who are affected even, the seniors and the folks with disabilities and dependents who depend on these issues and on this benefit. This is an issue for every Minnesotan who cares about respect and fairness. And I think that that's all of us in this room and every Minnesotan across the state. Now, unfortunately, we were not able to eliminate the tax in its entirety, but we did some real good. We made some real progress. Now, Minnesotan couples whose adjusted gross income is $100,000 or less will not pay a penny of tax on their the benefits that they get from Social Security. Now, because of this bill, 322,000 Minnesotans will see tax relief that averages $734 a year. Now, just as important, the tax cut continues with gradual decrease until being phased out $140,000, which coincidentally is also the point where New Mexico starts taxing its Social Security benefits. And we have heard over and over again that there are 12 states that don't tax Social Security benefits. One of those is New Mexico because they start at $140,000. More importantly, this change is a $1.24 billion tax cut for Minnesotans. Now, we're also providing some pension relief for state troopers and firefighters who aren't eligible for Social Security benefits. Members, this bill represents a substantial tax cut, but it also represents respect for seniors and a far fairer Minnesota.
Senator Hoschow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to talk about this bill in the context of property owners and homeowners. We all know that valuations have been out of control over the last many years, and families have continued to ask for relief from their local governments and from the state. This bill does a historic job in providing both local aid to our communities to help with the costs that they're facing so that those local levies don't continue to see increasing costs on local property owners, but it also provides direct homestead tax credits and PTR payments to our homeowners so that they can better afford their homes. In addition to that, I'm thrilled with the local government aid, county program aid, PILT payments for public lands for our counties, and one of the most exciting pieces of this tax bill that I'm excited about is the direct local government aid to our tribal nations. Just like we provide local aid to our cities, to our towns, and to our counties, we can provide some local aid to our tribes who do important work in our regions. For an example, in Cook County, the Grand Portage tribe works alongside the county on emergency management and on patrols on Lake Superior. These are considerable costs for the tribes to take on in providing services in that county. And so this local government aid that we're providing our tribal governments and the county will go a long way in pushing that relief so that local property owners don't feel the burden. I couldn't be more excited about this. I think we're going to see dramatic decreases in property tax levies, and this will go a long way in providing that relief. Thank you.
Senator Klein.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Governor Walz, after the last election, committed to reducing and eliminating childhood poverty in the state of Minnesota, and one of the most visionary and significant measures to address that and start down that road is contained in this tax bill in the form of a child tax credit, which will offer $1.52 billion in tax savings to 265,000 families with children, estimated to reduce childhood poverty by 1/3. These will be $1,750 credits per child age 0 to 17, refundable and indexed to inflation. There is no cap on the number of children that can be credited with this, and the income phase-out thresholds begin at $35,000 for a married filing jointly and scale up to $96,250 for families with 4 children. Taxpayers will receive advanced payments rather than waiting until tax filing. And these will significantly change the state of childhood poverty in Minnesota. The other significant anti-poverty measure in this bill, Mr. President, is the renter's credit. In the past, we have done renters refunds for people who submitted a form in August. This will now convert that back to April when people file their individual income taxes. They will receive the renter's credit, which will vastly improve participation in the program as well as the number of dollars that low-income families who rent receive in terms of property tax relief. This is going to be a better Minnesota once these two measures are in place.
Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the recommendations and conference committee report on House File number 1938 be rejected and that the bill be re-referred to the conference committee as formally constituted for further consideration.
Senator Weber moved that the recommendations and conference committee report for House File 1938 be rejected and that the bill be referred to the conference committee as formally constituted for further considerations. To your motion, Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President. As it relates to the 10 reasons to vote for this bill, I can give you a few reasons that, quite frankly, this bill should be sent back to the conference committee. Number one, there's $2.2 billion reasons, and that's because that's the amount of tax increase that this bill represents. Also, I would like to consider the e-poll tab situation. This is a provision, Mr. President, that was pulled into this bill in the dark of night and, quite frankly, never had a hearing, never had any type of analysis as to what it will do to those charitable institutions across this state of Minnesota who provide so much to various youth programs, VFWs, American Legions, and all sorts of community activities. It is stated that this type of charitable gambling today produces over $130 million a year. And in the previous quarter, 54% of that came from the e-poll tab. Now, we can talk about granting them tax relief, but quite frankly, Mr. President, if they don't have the income, what good does the tax relief do? As we look at what is provided for our youth programs across this state, there's going to be great comments made today about this tax bill and what it does for the children. Well, let's talk a little bit about what it does to the children. Because of the elimination of the e-poll tab provisions that are currently in state law, there will be thousands and thousands of young people across this state that will not get to participate in various programs in their community. There will be thousands and thousands of school children who will have various elements of their programs eliminated because of the contributions that are made by these charitable organizations. There will be thousands and thousands of children who no longer will get to play hockey, will get to play soccer, will get to play in a multitude of community activities because of this bill. We have had many instances in the past years where this issue has been litigated and the courts have not eliminated the e-poll tab provisions from our legislation. And we should not be doing it here. That provision does not belong in the tax bill in the first place. It deserves to be heard, it deserves to be debated, and quite frankly, that was not done. Mr. President, I will have more to say about this bill and the various provisions coming on, but again, I renew my motion and I urge a green vote. Thank you.
Senator Abler.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm not ordinarily a tax speaker. I've become this year an energy speaker, and now I'm going to talk about taxes. So usually I'm in charge of human services, which is more the life and death, and now we have the taxes at the other end of the spectrum. Mr. President, I'm really surprised that, well, this should go back to conference for any number of reasons, and you'll probably hear a bunch of them. For the main one being, Mr. President, we don't need any tax increases. We Minnesotans already sense that they have chipped in enough to feed government. And Mr. President, if I had control of anything here, if I had a vote, that the budget for Minnesota would be at the most the $17 billion we had in the surplus, and we would have found a way to actually give some of that back to people more than $260. Mr. President, just yesterday on Friday I was at my clinic, and this woman walked in, and she's 75 maybe, and she said, "What are you going to do with your $260? And she's a fixed income person, and even she thought it was kind of funny that's it out of $17 billion. And even the governor proposed $1,000 per person. Started at $500, worked his way up to $1,000. We proposed $1,000 per person permanent income tax cuts last year, every week, every month, every year. And so in this bill, I don't know how much there is. There's just lots. All I can say is for the average resident of District 35, they weren't expecting to go home with this array of taxes. There's some in here and there's some others coming, and they didn't think they'd go home paying 1% more for everything that they buy at the store. They didn't think that they would be enjoying the benefits of paying more taxes as this bill outlines. And they, for sure thinking they didn't think it would be distributed the way it is. Mr. President, I have a point of inquiry.
State your point.
Is it legitimate to speak a foreign language just for a brief moment on this floor?
I would think you wouldn't want to speak a foreign language on the floor because the whole reason for debate is so that we can all understand what you're saying.
Well, so Mr.
Unless it's a language that all of us understands, which we embrace every language.
Thank you. And so, Mr. President, so it sounds like if I interpret, then it would be legitimate to offer a short phrase. So is that probably correct?
I think that you should probably just speak in English if that's possible.
Oh, thank you. Mr. President, I'll see if I'm going across the line, but it's just a few words. And it's German, which is one of my ancestries. And by the way, Mr. President, my aunt went over to Germany to look up the Ablers, and it's relevant to the thing I want to read. And so in one of the cities is the Abler Glockenspiel, a very famous, amazing clockworks. And so she went there saying, "Hi, I'm Betty Abler," and oh, that Abler. So you're the poor dirt farmers that are over down there, and so thanks for stopping by, but keep moving. And so Mr. President, I won't say he's one of my mentors, but there was a fellow who did say this. He said, "Jeder nach seinem Fähigkeiten, jedem nach seinem Bedürfnissen." And that was actually a fellow named Karl Marx.
And what he said back then in 1875 seems to be true in 2023, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. And so, Mr. President, I don't know if he knows what would have happened in Minnesota, but Mr. President, we've made it. We're not even helping the people with the greatest needs. The help we're giving to even the poorest families to get children out of poverty. If a single mom makes $17 an hour, do you know how much she gets out of this little child grant thing? Mr. President, that would be nothing. And so I think that if we're going to do this, if we're going to follow Karl Marx and what he's after, I think at least you want to make sure that you raise the bar high enough to include people who are truly needy. And Mr. President, I can't think of anybody more needy than a single mom making $17 an hour. Just want to offer one other thing. So this should go back and just rejigger it. You have so much money in the bill. Why don't you raise it up to help somebody making, well, we're talking $25 an hour, Mr. President, for nursing homes and so on. So maybe we should go to like $30 an hour would be a number that makes sense. So that family could have the ability to be out of poverty as well, instead of people who make much less. And I just want to offer one thing why, Mr. President, I pray this bill goes back. There is one thing I do know about in this bill, and it was already mentioned by Senator Weber about the gambling thing, the charitable gambling. I don't get a lot of mail on tax bills, Mr. President, and emails and people calling and begging and just, grieving. But I don't know what you're thinking, Mr. President. If you're going to vote for this, maybe you can vote to send this back, and other members. But this is going to be the single most impactful bill, as I've heard. It's going to have an impact on these charities that we have ever done to them, for no gain. And Mr. President, if you remember the Human Services Bill and the Health and Human Services Bill, which we're still waiting to even get to Conference Committee to see what's in there, many of the needs that the charities provide in terms of support to community, food shelves, reaching out to families who are in straits of, relocating. Otherwise, they'll have to be picked up by us in those committees, Mr. President. And I'm not sure if the state can accept that burden, but I do not think that people, when they ran, they went to the doors and said, hey, by the way, Ramsey Youth Athletic Association, be prepared to have way less money when I get elected. I don't represent them now, but I did before. But I don't think that, I don't think Senator Barr went out there and said, hey, I'm new in town here, but I'm going to help you get less money for your youth athletic organization. I'm presuming he didn't say that. And I don't think even people that on the other side of the aisle who are voting for this bill, which I cannot comprehend, were doing that. So, Mr. President, each of us has a vote. And I know there's deals made but in some room that most of us aren't in. And Mr. President, it seems like this was made in a room that almost none of us were in. And then it gets stuck in a bill, and then we're like, the time is up and we have to vote for it. Mr. President, if all we did was send this back for 20 minutes to take this out, I will promise I will not give a second tax speech, and I will talk to my colleagues and invite them to say nothing on that return. And I think we could carve that bargain out and remove this thing, which is going to cause more harm than anybody expected, despite the wonderful things that Senator Klein, a House child, and Senator Gustafson talked about. I don't think that the people in Ramsey would trade whatever police aid they're going to get for gutting their charitable gambling programs for all those youth activities. Because, Mr. President, for my kids, I was a lousy coach. I was never good at sports, but I'm really glad that different parents would rise up and go off and help my kids learn sports. And, Mr. President, none of them are pros, but they all enjoy the sports that they were able to do in those youth activities. And, Mr. President, there's time. We have the whole day today. The revisor is busy, but going out and taking out a section, adjusting a few lines on the spreadsheet, this can be done. We don't have to do this. Mr. President, I urge members to vote green on the motion to re-refer. Thank you.
Senator Rick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to support the motion to reject the conference committee report. And there are many, many things that I could talk to, such as why are we increasing taxes when we have a $19 billion surplus? Why are we doing this to our small charities around the state? But the one that I want to focus on, and the reason why we need to send this back, is based around the public safety aid. We heard that a number of legislators worked on this to get it right. Mr. President, I would say we did not get it right, and we maybe should have brought in a little bit bigger group to talk about it. There was something that was missed. And there might be people sitting in this chamber saying, what in the world did we miss? I would ask members to look at the last page of the handout that you have on your desk. And if you look down to the total population of cities, you see 4.7 million. And then when you look down the total population of counties and tribes, 5.7 million. Well, wait a minute, you might ask yourself, why are those numbers different? They're different by 1 million, Mr. President. Where did those million people go? They're in our rural townships, Mr. President, and they're missed in this when we look at what's given to our cities. You know what one of the major things is that's being talked about in our townships right now? What it costs them for their fire contracts. But they're not being accounted for in this. Do we think that our police departments don't have to go out to our rural townships? Of course they do. But in the first part of this formula, when we're giving money to cities based on their population, we're completely neglecting townships. When in fact, the costs are higher out in our townships because of the nature of how widespread they are and how long it takes to get there. Mr. President, this needs to be sent back so that can be addressed so that we're not missing 1 million people in the state of Minnesota when we're looking at this funding. Please vote green.
Senator Jaskowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2.2 billion reasons, Mr. President. There's 2.2 billion reasons to vote against this tax bill. There's 2.2 billion reasons to send it back to conference committee. I support Senator Weber's motion to do so. We have, Mr. President, $19 billion of overcollection of the people's money arriving here in St. Paul between now and the end of the biennium that ends in just a few short days. 2.2 billion reasons in this bill to vote no. This is a bill, and Senator Rest had a title for it, and I used to serve with Representative Davids, and he had some really good titles. I didn't, Senator Rest, I like you a lot. You're a great colleague, but I didn't like the title. I've got a better one. This is the Rob Peter to pay Paul tax bill. And that's what we have before us, Mr. President. A bill that takes $2.2 billion from Peter and pays it to Paul. It takes $2.2 billion from hardworking Minnesotans and pays it to Paul. That's what we have before us. So we had Democrats, we had at least 4 of them in this chamber that very clearly said during their campaign that they wanted to eliminate the income tax on Social Security payments. And they campaigned on it, and they begged for votes and told people in their district that they were going to come to St. Paul and they weren't going to stop until the income tax on Social Security payments was eliminated. Well, guess what, Mr. President? It didn't happen. And Senate Republicans offered those 4 members multiple opportunities to join us to eliminate the income tax on Social Security payments. As a matter of fact, there was plenty of money. There was way more money being collected here by the hardworking people of Minnesota than was needed to fully eliminate the income tax on Social Security benefits. But no, the party bosses told those 4 members, the Democrat party bosses told them, no, you're not going to do it. You're going to vote with us. And what did they do? They voted with the party bosses each and every single time that we attempted. And we worked it over and over and tried over and over in this body to get rid of the income tax on Social Security benefits. And those 4 Democrats voted with their party bosses instead of the people that they told at the doors that they were going to work with us to do it. There was no bipartisan effort by them to do it. It was march in line, and march in line, Mr. President, they did. So what do we see in the bill? The best they could do in the bill, with the billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars of overcollection of the people's money, the best they could do is 39%. This bill gets rid of 39% of the $2.6 billion that this state takes from senior citizens throughout our state and robs from Peter to bring it to St. Paul so that the Democrats can redistribute it to people, that robs from Peter, and so that the Democrats can bring it here to St. Paul to pay to Paul. And that's what this bill does. Let's look, Mr. President, at the working family credit as an example. Now this bill, and I'm still trying to understand it completely because we didn't have a full hearing of all of what happened in this bill in conference committee. There's a huge House component in here around the working family credit. They reconditioned the working family credit to expand eligibility. As a matter of fact, eligibility, I am told, and I see in the spreadsheet, increases $800 million. We take $800 million of Peter's money and give it to the working family credit. That's what we do in this bill, $800 million per biennium, every single biennium. So I pulled together some numbers on the working family credit, members. Before the changes in this bill are implemented, the working family credit, so members, the working family credit is a refundable tax credit. That means when you're done calculating your tax liability, if you have 0 tax liability, you still get a check. If you don't have to pay in taxes to the government, Mr. President, the working family credit allows you to get a check that Peter earned and St. Paul took from Peter to pay to Paul. $640 per filer currently is the amount of the working family credit, and that is before this bill adds another $800 million per biennium. By the way, the current spending in the working family credit, Mr. President, is about $253 million per year. So that's about $500 million per biennium, $253 million per year. And, you know, for liberals who argue that, well, we need to take from Peter to pay to St. Paul, or we need to take from Peter to pay Paul. Those people, those Democrats who argue, take money from productive people and give it to people who are not productive, those people who argue that suggest, well, you know, that's in the common interest, that's in the public good, that is going to help liberate and get people up and out of poverty, to give them a hand up. Well, Mr. President, this program has become nothing more than a hammock, and the Democrats add another $800 million per biennium to the already large hammock in the working family credit. As a matter of fact, it's projected before this bill comes forward, Mr. President, it's expected to increase 4.3% between last year and this year, another 2.1. It's supposed to increase 2.1% every single year, Mr. President. That's what the working family credit is scheduled to increase. It is not liberating people from poverty. It is instead increasing the size and scope of welfare here in the state of Minnesota. It's not encouraging people to get a job. It is instead encouraging them not to. And we've seen that over and over again in other bills here, Mr. President. We paid people not to work in the jobs bill. We paid them in a bunch of different bills. We're doing this by robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we do it in this bill. Very, very frustrating, I think, for hardworking Minnesotans who understood we were going to give them a tax cut. But instead, what this is taking money from people who work hard and giving it to people who the Democrats want to give it to, certainly their constituents that they have outlined in these bills. So, by the way, the Working Family Credit members, among the 393,300 filers that have filed for this in the last year, 20% have a positive tax liability after all of their refundable and non-refundable credits are applied. 20% have to pay in taxes. 80% of the people who are going to be paid this money don't have net tax liability after the tax credits are applied. The people who work hard in Minnesota, Mr. President, are becoming weary. The people who work so hard in Minnesota and are having St. Paul rob from Peter, like this bill does, are becoming weary. And I've covered in other bills, they are moving out of Minnesota because they can't handle the oppressive nature of taxes, regulation, and liberal woke ideology in this state, and we see it in these bills over and over and over again. Our state, Mr. President, is becoming fatigued. This bill increases the fatigue even more among the people of Minnesota who work so hard every day to try to keep their families going, to try to build their communities, to try to bring our state forward, and they're running out of steam, Mr. President. Mr. President, members, I encourage you to support Senator Weber's motion. Let's stop the $2.2 billion reasons in this bill. Let's stop the efforts in this bill that rob from the hardworking Minnesotans, that rob from Peter to pay Paul. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, you can imagine, as a former tax chair, I have a lot to say about this tax bill. But I'm going to save those comments. But right now, I want to speak specifically to the motion before us to reject the conference committee report. And there's one large, overreaching issue why I believe we must reject the conference committee report in front of us today. As you know, the charitable gaming provision that was added into the tax bill, and I know how frustrating that is to have a lot of things added into the tax bill at the last minute, but I would just say that this provision is highly controversial. I do not recall it having a hearing in the Senate. I don't know if it did in the House or not. Surely, it did not have a hearing in the Senate Tax Committee. And it's concerning to me what's happening at some private meeting, undisclosed determination that the charitable gaming was going to be basically scrapped. And what I want the chamber and the public to know is I want them to know a little bit about charitable gaming. It might be a phrase that they're not used to hearing, but certainly we all are aware of the amazing work that charitable gaming They determine locally what missions to fund, and we are familiar with those. They determine what missions to fund in their communities, which really is the best way to serve people, which is determining what is needed in your community, which might be different than something down further in the state. They serve our veterans groups. They serve fraternal organizations, fire departments, church, youth, civic organizations. And where I live, much is the fire departments and youth sports are two of the biggest recipients from charitable gaming. They serve the sick, they serve the elderly, they serve people with disabilities, they educate kids, fund youth sports, provide wholesome activities to keep kids off the street. They feed the hungry. They serve our veterans, those brave men and women who were willing to sacrifice all to protect and defend our country. Our charitable gaming serves them. And these locally determined missions that they choose to fund are of great value. And so, to sum it up, charitable gaming makes our neighborhoods and our states a better place to live. They support our community programs with contributions and donations from charitable gaming. In fact, that's the very reason for their existence. Now, what has happened with charitable gaming, I think, is important for people to know. Looking around the room here, I think I'm one of the few. I can count at least 3 other Republicans. I think there are a few Democrats here as well who were here when the charitable gaming was put into place to help as a backstop to fund the Viking Stadium. And so, as we in the last year have been talking about defeasing those bonds and saving the state money through paying off the remainder of those bonds, certainly many of us, including charitable gaming, our local communities, all of those folks that I mentioned to you, who depend on charitable gaming contributions to help those local organizations meet their worthy missions. Many of us thought it was high time then that we see a reduction in the tax on charitable gaming, because the tax on charitable gaming has gotten so abusive that we have lists and lists of charitable gaming charitable gaming which no longer can serve its prime mission, which is serving our communities, because their biggest mission is the tax confiscation that is going right. They pay more in taxes than they do in their charitable mission. And many of our charitable gaming folks have said, we did not sign up for this to be tax collectors for the state. So it was much overdue that we reduced the taxes on charitable gaming. And so, on the one hand, you might think, well, what is wrong then? Because this conference committee report, this last-minute addition on charitable gaming, decreases their taxes. But the problem is, it is by 1%. 1%. And in addition, for that minimal tax reduction, which really one could say shouldn't even be taxed anymore, since they're the only entity that pays taxes on donations that it gives out. But regardless, they should not be taxed. And what's happening here is a bit of a sleight of hand, members. I want the public to know this. It's a bit of sleight of hand, because those charitable gaming iPads, those original ones, those electronic games for the e-pull tabs that came along because of the Viking Stadium's need to have another source of revenue. And as you will recall, the first few years, it didn't produce any revenue. In fact, I spoke with a number of entities. I believe it was $300 they paid to rent those particular iPads that did the e-pull tabs. And the e-pull tabs were not even bringing in enough money to pay for the rent of the special e-pull tabs laptop or iPads. And it was not until technology developed to the point where the e-pull tabs went faster that they started taking off. And they did take off, and they have done very well. And of course, the courts have ruled that there was no infringement upon the gaming rights, the exclusive gaming rights that our tribes, that our casinos have. And yet, I find it really troubling that today we're talking about a tax bill, and I'll talk about it later with the good things and the clunkers that will make it difficult for me to support. But I would say it's troubling today that one of the last pieces that was added was the e-poll tabs provision. Now that they're profitable, we are going to revert those by law, take away the technology advancements the courts have said are not infringing upon our tribal casinos, and suddenly we, right here in the legislature, are willing to take away by law those innovations that have made the e-poll tabs successful for our charitable gaming, most importantly, for the communities in which they serve. And because of the way that this was added at the last minute, I believe that it is time that we must send this omnibus tax bill back and have a full hearing on this. Thank you.
Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I too rise supporting Senator Weber's motion to send this back to conference committee. What I'd like to speak about today is charitable gambling. In my district, I have just short of 50 different towns and communities. And amazingly enough, whether they're a town of 100 people or 1,000 people, whatever that number might be, an awful lot of the youth programs that we have in these communities are supported by the charitable gambling that goes on within that community. And this is going to make a world of difference to these communities. These little communities just don't have the wherewithal to support a lot of these programs. Charitable gambling came along. It's worked out very well. They've had programs that at one point they'd have only dreamed of, and now we're going to shatter those dreams and take those programs away without hearings in the Senate. I don't know about the House, but this is a pretty drastic move in the impact on that, and I don't think that there was too much thought put into what the real impact is going to be by taking that out of these small communities, and I think it's unfortunate. And I think we really have to go back and take a look at this, and I think this was kind of, in a sense, a knee-jerk reaction that happened, and I think we need to go back and review that. We need to see what that impact is going to be on our communities and come up with a way of getting that figured out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with many of my colleagues' points as to why this bill should go back to the Tax Conference Committee. Minnesotans expected real tax relief, and this bill is unfortunately not delivering it. But, Mr. President, I actually wanted to focus on another issue that I have with the bill here before us today. Even though neither the Senate bill, the Senate tax bill, nor the House tax bill had any provisions related to Minnesota pension policy, this conference committee dropped in a bill related to teacher pensions that did not go through the Pension Commission. And it's really important, Mr. President, members, to understand why we have a pension commission. We have 7 senators, 7 representatives serve on this bicameral body. We have actuaries that serve the commission who go through and review the numbers for any pension proposals, and we are able to take testimony from retirees, from active members, from the pension plan directors, and to have that feedback and to put forward pension bills that are appropriate and well thought out. And so I'm very disappointed to see that in this tax bill, we completely sidestepped the Pension Commission and just dropped a pension bill in this bill, even though neither the House tax bill nor the Senate tax bill had anything to do with pensions. And one of the results of this, Mr. President, if this doesn't go back to conference committee, is that we will have state pensions that have a different amortization date. And just to explain what an amortization date is to those who might not know, is it's the date at which the pension funds will be fully funded. It's their target date to make sure that they have enough assets to pay for the liabilities that we've promised to Minnesota workers. And this bill just randomly moves back the amortization date for the Teacher Retirement Association by 5 years. That will be 5 years different than every single pension fund here in the state of Minnesota. St. Paul teachers actually oppose that change, and so they're keeping their amortization date 5 years earlier than for the Teachers Retirement Association. And we're going to have to live with this kind of random pension policy that hasn't been well thought out. And so, Mr. President, I'm looking to see if we have any members of the Pension Commission here in the body. I don't see that we do. But I was wondering, Mr. President, would Senator Rest yield for a question?
Senator Rest, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Rest. Senator Rest, I was wondering if you could explain why there's just a pension bill that showed up in this Tax Conference Committee report that did not go through our Pension Commission process.
Senator Rest.
Mr. President, no, I cannot.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Rest. I appreciate the candidness. And I think that just goes to, to show why this should go back to conference committee, why we should take out the policy part of the pension changes. I support, and I think we have bipartisan support, to put more money into teacher pension funds. And I'm actually fine if we do that through the tax bill, if we have direct aid going in to the Teacher Retirement Association and St. Paul teachers through this bill. But to have a bill before the body that changes amortization dates, contribution rates, and makes other highly technical changes to Minnesota pension law without a thorough vetting is not good practice for this body, and I think will lead to bad pension policy that this chamber and the state will have to deal with in the years to come. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm going to tell you why I push that red button a lot. I think we are taxed way too much. I had to chuckle a little bit when I heard someone talk about how we've really worked at stopping taxing Social Security. I'm not going to go through all that. Senator Drzewski talked about it, but we told elderly people that we're going to stop taxing their Social Security income. And we know the government has too much money, Mr. President, when we're spending that money on murals and parks and trails that don't exist. We say we want to help homeless people. I see homeless people outside. They're living in the streets and in these tents. And we say we want to help them, but we're spending money on murals and parks and trails and bike paths. I see that's kind of funny when we have this extra money and we're not actually using it to help people. That's what we should be doing. Food, water, and shelter is what people need. Let's take care of that before we're just spending it on arts and crafts. My father told me that the only person you can rely on is yourself. And if we do that, and if people are told that and they're taught that, then they will work hard and we won't have to take so much tax money and redistribute it to people that aren't working. Do I think we should help people? I absolutely do. But when we aren't encouraging people to help themselves, this is where we are. My father, and I told this story in committee, Mr. President, and someone said I'm stepping on people. I'm not stepping on people. I'm trying to speak to the people in the state and encourage them to get up and help themselves. When my father moved out of the house, he was 17 years old, and he lived on a park bench in Little Falls. And he didn't have any money. He didn't have a home because his father told him, you have to depend on yourself and save your money and work hard to accomplish something. So he worked on a park bench, and he lived on a park bench, and he worked at Coburn's. And he would walk to work. He would take a shower in the meat department where they spray off the meat because he didn't have a shower, and that's cold water. He would work, then he'd go sleep on the park bench, and if he was told to leave the park bench, he'd sleep down by the bridge in Little Falls where he wouldn't be seen. He eventually saved up enough money, and he rented like a very small 100 square foot little apartment in Little Falls, and he'd eat crackers and bologna. And then he worked harder and saved up more money, and saved up more money and didn't rely on people to take care of him. That's what people need to do. You can work hard, and I'm not saying I don't want to help people, but people can work hard. And when we give out too much free stuff, and we know we're giving out too much free stuff, when we're spending taxpayer dollars, people who are not getting their Social Security money back, and we're spending it on paintings and museums and arts and crafts, that's wasting money. That's my money. That's all of our money. That's Minnesota taxpayers' money. We need to give their money back to them that they worked hard for. And that's what we need to do. Excuse me, that's what we need to do with this money. We need to send this bill back, and we need to fix this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Uckey.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I, too, fully support the motion to send this bill back to the conference committee and be fixed or reworked, whatever we want to call it, because there's plenty of work to be done on it yet. A lot of these things have been mentioned. The $2.2 billion of tax increases, completely and totally unacceptable. The e-tabs for our charities in all of our communities. The number of activities that are paid for and sponsored by those dollars is incredible. And now we're saying that's not important. You name your sport, your summer activity, it's got some connection to the charities which receive money from the e-tabs. But more importantly, all we've heard over the last year and a half is, that's our money, give it back. And now we're telling our citizens of Minnesota that of the $19 billion, $260 is all you're going to see. And that's if you are of a certain income level. Many others will see nothing. And then also the full repeal of Social Security. Those were the two things that I would say far outreach any other comments that we've heard over the last 18 to 20 months. Now, in this bill, there is some additional further movement on the Social Security. But that happens to be the only permanent ongoing tax relief in this whole bill, is that movement in the Social Security. It's good for some. There's still a number of people that this doesn't help a lot. And I think that should have been a priority, but of course it wasn't. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on that we haven't heard about yet, and it's of course not included in this bill, we see the exemption of sales tax on a lot of different building materials for projects in our cities, in our counties, covering a lot of different things. But missing were the jails. There were some requests for jails. The fact that they also should be in line for that protection or help, get a little money back on the sales tax that they're paying on those projects. And they're not coming up with the idea of replacing their jail all on their own. They're being told by the Department of Corrections they must replace it. The state is mandating that they replace their jail. And they come to us to ask for a little help, and we can't even include that. So, for all of those reasons, please vote green to send this bill back for some additional work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the motion to reject the conference committee report. We need to send this bill back to the conference committee, Mr. President. There are many reasons to send this back to the conference committee. Mr. President, I'll focus on three to keep this brief. First, Mr. President, the e-pull tab changes will decimate our charities, our youth sports associations, and our local bars and restaurants. This provision was not only completely untransparent and done out of the public view at the 11th hour, was not thoroughly debated in this body at all. It's completely unnecessary and very unpopular, especially in my district, Mr. President. The Blaine Youth Hockey Association nets after taxes $600,000 a year due to e-pull tabs. That money, Mr. President, makes it affordable for kids of all income levels to play hockey. Hockey's an expensive sport. This helps opportunity for all kids to play hockey. It's terribly disappointing that the Democrat majority has chosen to decimate e-pull tabs and harm our Youth Sports Association. It also benefits the Spring Lake Park Lions Club. Mr. President, I served on the board of the Spring Lake Park Lions Club Foundation Board. What is that? What does that do? It primarily gets its money from the Spring Lake Park Lions Club, who gets it through things like e-pull tabs. And what do? We give scholarships to high school seniors to help them get on their way into college with a scholarship. That's in jeopardy now. The Spring Lake Park Youth Hockey Association, the VFWs, the American Legions, I could go on and on, Mr. President. This is a really bad idea. And we've heard here in the chamber that all we're doing is affirming the 2012 deal with the tribes and the charities. With all due respect, Mr. President, that is untrue. The 2012, I have in my hand right here the first game description from the Gambling Control Board meeting on September 8th, 2012. The first one where they're approving games, e-pull tab games. From the very beginning, functions like the open all functions was approved 10 and a half years ago. Bonus games was approved 10 and a half years ago. And we've been operating under that for the past 10 and a half years, and now we're going to pull the rug out from under them. All that's changed in the last 10 and a half years, it's not the functionality, it's not any statutory violations, it's simply cosmetic changes due to improvements in graphics like any other thing in the video space. That's it. It's cosmetic changes. It's not a good excuse to do what we're doing. And everybody was present at this meeting and knew what was happening, all the stakeholders. This is wrong, Mr. President. Also, Mr. President, the second thing I would like to focus on is, as Senator Rasmussen pointed out, the pension changes here. All of a sudden, we're finding almost $100 million to provide extra benefits for teacher pensions. Now, I support teacher pension reforms, but I also support it going through the right process, going through the Pensions Commission. But I also am very aware from not too long ago where we were cutting existing benefits, pension benefits, to our duty disabled members, our police and firefighters who are disabled and can no longer work. We were cutting existing benefits, their existing pension benefits, yet we can find the money to give new benefits to teachers. Where are our priorities, Mr. President? Where are our priorities? I don't see it. Mr. President, finally, overall, a $2.2 billion tax increase at a time when we started the session with a $19 billion surplus is completely unacceptable. There are some good things in this bill, the child tax credits, the public safety grants. But in my district, Mr. President, most of the residents are going to pay more in taxes under this bill. And I can, in good conscience, vote for a net tax increase in light of the massive, historic surplus that we have. And most people don't understand why we're raising taxes in this environment, Mr. President. So for those three reasons, we need to send this back to the conference committee and redo this, Mr. President. And I ask for a yes vote on this motion. Thank you.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the motion to send this back to conference committee for a very simple reason. This is a terrible bill that we have before us. This Democrat bill is filled with Democrat broken promises. This Democrat bill raises taxes on hardworking Minnesotans by billions of dollars in the face of a multi-billion-dollar, nearly $20 billion budget surplus of tax overcollection already. One of the devastating provisions in this bill is going to destroy charitable fundraising. American Legions, children's sports, Lions clubs, VFWs, struggling to raise the revenue they need to rely on and support community initiatives all across this state are going to be harmed by the Democrat tax bill that's before us. You know, when I was younger, I remember the phrase from my father who said, there's two ways that you can learn, the easy way or the hard way. The easy way would be to learn from the experiences of history, from the experiences who've gone down the path of life ahead. Or there's the hard way, through stubbornness, arrogance, to repeat and do the same mistakes that others have done. And that's what we see before us. Republicans have spoken the voices of hardworking Minnesotans. We've repeated the voices of the job creators across this state, of the mandates, the crippling regulations, and tax increases that Democrats are thrusting on Minnesotans are going to damage this state. It's going to result in more people leaving, businesses relocating or closing, or businesses never opening to begin with. That's where the Democrats have brought us. The hard way. Repeating the mistakes that we're seeing other states experiencing right now, with businesses and people fleeing the overregulation and high taxes. There is the founding principle, the founding philosophy of our country is a spirit, a fire, a passion for independence. To have a system, a society, a culture where people can work hard, sacrifice, and then be able to reap the rewards of their hard work. Having the alarm go off at 5 a.m. and going to bed at midnight, working the fingers to the bone, making the choices of having income for their family and keeping it for themselves. But this tax bill works to extinguish that flame of independence. Instead, this Democrat tax bill, along with the provisions and the many other bills that have come before this body, seek to create dependence, extinguishing the flame and the drive of independence and creating a society of people that are dependent on government. And dependence on government is the fast road to destruction. Because a people that are reliant on government are a people that cannot fend for themselves. And this bill seeks to use the tax code to socially engineer the progressive, radical policies that history has proven is the hard way. Mr. President and members, we need to reject this tax bill. We need to promote independence, letting people keep the fruits of their own labor. And we do so by voting green on this motion to reject. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Grudenhagen.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I rise in support of Senator Weber's motion to refer this. You know, it's been said by Senator Drazkowski, this is rob Peter to pay Paul, which I agree to. I would add another phrase to this tax bill. it would be, I'm trying to think how to properly say this. Okay. Anyway, there's been a host of reasons why we should send this tax bill back, given by members. And I would just like to add a couple of them. The one I want to talk about is number one, lower taxes actually creates more economic activity, and you actually get more tax revenue. So members, when you have a competitive tax and regulatory structure, you get additional economic activity in the private sector, and that generates additional tax revenue. That's an economic law, okay? Which doesn't seem to be recognized here. The other thing, we know that the $19 billion of tax revenue or surplus that we have, a lot of it came from the $80 billion that the federal government gave us during COVID, one-time money. And that is washed through the economic system. And yet, we're creating, in many cases, ongoing spending with that money. If you do that in your personal life, I'll tell you what'll happen. You'll be bankrupt, okay? And that's what we're setting ourselves up for here. A huge deficit in the future, especially if we get, as many economists say, a recession on the near horizon. The other thing I'd add, why we should be cutting taxes rather than seeing a tax increase, is that nationally, since the Biden administration's been in, we've had an 18% inflation rate. Inflation is a tax increase. It's a tax increase without legislation. And you know who it's the cruelest on, members? Our poor people. They've seen an 18% increase in their taxes through inflation and the diminishing of their purchasing power of their money without anybody voting on it other than the federal government printing up trillions of dollars. So at a time where we're seeing that high of inflation, we should be cutting taxes right across the board to negate some of that higher cost. Instead, as we raise taxes, ultimately it shows up in even higher prices in our economy, which again hurts the poor. And this tax bill, unfortunately, puts us in that direction, and it should definitely go back and remove the tax increase. The other thing I would just want to point out, members, is one of the tax increases in Section 47 of the bill is called the Global Intangible Low-Taxed Income, okay? And we're going to tax these international corporations at a very high rate. Now, when we look at other blue or liberal states, we see that they're going in just the opposite direction of Minnesota. Like, for instance, California does not tax global intangible low-taxed income. New Jersey, by the way, just reduced its 50% tax on global corporate low-taxed income from 50% down to 5%. Now, why would California and New Jersey reduce taxes in this particular area when Minnesota is going to increase taxes? Because it sends a message to these corporations: Minnesota is closed for business. The result is that we're going to get less private sector economic activity and ultimately lower tax revenues. So members, please remember, when you have a competitive tax and regulatory structure in relationship to other states and even globally, you actually increase private sector economic activity and you generate more taxes. This bill takes us just in the opposite direction. I guess I'd call this bill not only robbing Peter to pay Paul, it's a bait and switch. It gets you to look at a little shiny object up here saying, hey, we're going to give you some tax reduction, but you better hold on to your wallet down below because the government is going to take a lot of that money right out of your pocket as they're trying to give you a tax cut and claim to be helping you on the one hand. So again, only government can be this convoluted and this mixed up as far as their tax code is concerned. And finally, members, it's been commented quite a bit, but the e-pull tabs changes is just a tragedy. I mean, these are local nonprofits who take the money and help a lot of times children's activities. You know, our schools, our Boy Scouts. We're talking about the American Legion. We're talking about the Lions Club. And they're helping out people who are, in many cases, in severe economic situations and trying to make a more level playing field for all children to participate. And instead of helping, we're hurting that cause with the changes we're promoting. Members, please vote green and send this back to the conference committee, not only for the things I've said, but also for the previous comments here. It's going in the wrong direction. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise in concern with the charitable gambling and the e-tabs. And if you wanted to name this bill, my quote is 1,053 reasons why not to vote for this bill. We should send it back. Small communities across Minnesota, sports, children's activities, sportsman clubs, you name it, are going to be damaged. 1,053 organizations. And think about each individual within those organizations that work so hard to try and make money for their youth sports. My son played hockey when he was a young child, and I think of the Hockey Association, of the people that donate their time to work concession hours, to get prep hockey time, to volunteer to run the sound equipment. You name it, all this time spent for these people across Minnesota, every single district, Democrat or Republican, have these people that are volunteering to this. And the e-tabs, again, we talked about started off slow and now are very successful. They actually allowed us to pay off our stadium early because they're successful. They give small communities, local towns, associations, people get to do charitable gambling. They get to gamble in their own little community. They don't have to go to the tribes, to the casinos. They can do it in their own community and support their own community. 1,053 organizations across the state that are going to lose out today because we're going to see a 33-34 partisan vote that's going to ruin our communities. I want to talk about mine in my district. Of the 1,053, the American Legion Waseca is going to be hurt by this bill. The American Legion in Faribault will be devastated by what we're going to do here today. The American Legion Post in Otana is going to be hurt by this bill today. Bethlehem Academy schools in Faribault are going to have a huge impact what they raise in charitable gambling in Faribault, where my daughter went to school. Divine Mercy School, where I went to school in Faribault, will be hurt by this bill. The Eagles in Faribault, this will put them under. This is what's keeping them to survive right now. And members, both Democrat, Republican, you've heard it from your communities. You know this is going to be devastating. And yet, the majority Democrats are going to vote 34-33 and pass this bill and hurt every one of their organizations. The Eagles in Otana are going to be hurt by this bill today. The Elks Lodge in Faribault just had to relocate to cut costs. And now we're going to further take more of their money away by reducing the ETAB proceeds. The Elks Lodge in Otana is going to be hurt today. Faribault Hockey Association and all those parents and all those kids that work year-long to raise money are going to be hurt today. The Faribault Rotary Youth Services is going to be hurt today. The Faribault Wrestling Club is going to be hurt today. Oop. The Kenyon Snowdrifters are going to be hurt today. The Knights of Columbus, Faribault, Otana are going to be hurt today. The Medford Firemen's Association, the Firemen's Association, folks, are going to be hurt here today by this bill. The Faribault Moose Lodge, my father-in-law and mother-in-law work hours and hours and hours to help that organization. And pull tabs help them. And you're going to hurt them today. The Morristown Firemen's Relief is going to be hurt today. The Otana Wrestling Club, the Otana Youth Hockey Association is going to be hurt today. I'll end on that. But this last weekend, last Sunday, I was putting my dock in, was hungry, decided to run over to the little local lodge that had a hamburger and a beer. And I walked in, and people are talking, what is going on? Why are they taking this away from us? And I looked up on the screen, and I saw Senator Putnam's face on the wall behind the pull tab booth. And it said, call Senator Putnam and tell him your concerns. Because he's the deciding vote today. Senator Putnam is going to be the deciding vote for 1,053 organizations across our state today that are going to lose out. They're losing out, folks. All the members, all the kids are going to lose out today because it's going to be a 34, 33, one-party control vote that's going to ruin Greater Minnesota. I don't know how many are local in the metro areas that are on this list, but I'll tell you, there's a heck of a lot in Greater Minnesota that are going to hurt. And I don't remember about a hearing that let this 1,053 organizations and all their members come up and testify what it will do to their organizations. So with that, Mr. President, I ask if Senator Rest would stand for a question.
Senator Rest, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I, as you well know, members, I have the utmost respect for Senator Rest. But I'd ask, was there a public meeting testimony where testimony was available for these people to voice their concerns on what is being taken away from them here today?
Senator Rest.
Mr. President, there was no public testimony in the Tax Conference Committee at all.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. To my point, we want to be transparent. We want to do the right things for Minnesotans. Now, we've had other bills where there's testimony from all kinds of people, and I'm going to call it pay to play. If they pay the price, they can come in and testify. These people did not get the chance to testify on something that's going to put them down in Minnesota. This bill should go back to conference committee, take the public testimony from 1,053 organizations that are going to be killed by this bill. Send it back to conference committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know we've had a lot of discussion today about the E-tabs and the changes to our local communities, and I just wanted to spend a couple minutes, Mr. President, if I could, talking about how it'll affect my district. covering 7 counties or parts of 7 counties. I have a lot of small towns. I believe there's 34 cities in my district. I would take one out and not consider that a small town. And in every one of these towns, and all 20 different school districts in my district, most of them do not have the funding, Mr. President, that the metro cities have for their schools. And I believe the changes in this tax bill will adversely affect a lot of the programs that our schools have where they rely on these charitable organizations to help fund programs. And it won't just be the schools and the kids in our communities. It'll also be volunteer fire departments in rural Minnesota. So with half the funding already in the rural areas, in the small towns, than the metro, we're going to pull what little help they get from the community away from them. My little school, where my kids go to school, the local service club gave them $68,000. Now, for the big metro area, that's not a lot of money. But for the 550 kids that go to that school, that's a lot of money. That's the difference between kids being able to go on a field trip, sign up for T-ball, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, band trips, FFA, 4-H. Who do they call when they don't have enough money to help cover the cost of a band trip? They just went to St. Louis on a bus for a band trip. And Mr. President, I know you love music. We have a large percentage of our kids at our local school that are in band. Who does the band director call when they need extra funding? That local service club to help pay for that. Same with the theater department, which is a volunteer. They usually put on one little production once a year because that's all they have the funds for. Knowledge Bowl, I can go on and on, Mr. President. So, members, I'm asking you to support this motion to send this back to conference committee. And think of those kids. And a lot of those kids come from poor families that don't have a lot of options. And who's there for them? It's the local charities. The fire department in rural areas is all we have. Those volunteers, when there's a fire, of course, they're there. But they're also the first responder. They're the EMT for rural areas. They're the ones that volunteer at the sporting events, so the schools don't have to hire someone out of a larger town to come a half hour or 45 minutes to work a sporting event. They're the ones that go out on grass fires. We have a lot of grass fires. We have a lot of agriculture. They're the ones that come out. You're taking funding away from those volunteer fire departments that put out those grass fires. Senator Frentz and myself a few years ago had some bills on grain bin safety. Who do you think comes out try to rescue people when they fall into a grain bin? It's the volunteer fire departments, and we're taking funding away from them. Accidents, of course, they're the first ones on the scene. In most cases in our area, when there's a missing loved one, who goes out and looks for them? It's the volunteer fire department. Any event in the area where they need help, who do they call? They call the volunteer fire department. You know why they do it? Because they're part of the community. But to be part of the community, they need funding, and we're taking that away from them, Mr. President. you know, we're calling this the tax omnibus bill, and I find that very ironic. I think ironic is my word of the session, because every omnibus bill we've had this year, Mr. President, has had an increase in taxes and in fees in almost every single one. And I would venture, if we put together the last 10 years of omnibus bills, that we would have at least 3 or 4 of those omnibus bills that we had this year on that list. Taxes, taxes, taxes. And I just want to warn the body that there will be a time where we will need to increase taxes. And unfortunately, we will not have the room in our family budgets to take more from them. We are creating a huge divide between the haves and have-nots. And with that, I urge a yes vote on the motion to send this back to conference committee.
Senator Howell.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I rise to support the Weber motion to reject the conference committee report and send it back. You know, members, I've been in the legislature not that long, but over 11 years. And members, I have not been in a deficit in those 11 years. What is that telling me? We're taxing our Minnesotans too much. That's what it tells me. And now this year we have a historic surplus of $19 billion. And we're raising in this bill $2.2 billion of taxes. And overall, it's close to $10 billion in taxes and fees this year. Members, we don't need to do that. It's unsustainable. I think we're going to head, and as we do this, we're going to head for a deficit. But members, I would also like to point, another reason to send this back is the piece in here with the pensions. I serve on the pension committee, the pension commission, and we had made, and where this should have been, we should have had this discussion. In fact, we did have discussions. The funding and the target wasn't there to do what needed to be done. And all of a sudden, voila, the money shows up, but it's after the pension commission wrapped up its work, but someone dug in and decided to cut something else, or maybe that's part of the $2.2 billion increase. That's probably where it's at. But members, I know you've heard enough about it, but you're going to hear some more, because I tell you what, the biggest piece that I have a problem with is the charitable gambling piece. These organizations are the backbone of our small communities. Most of the communities that I represent are under 5,000. There's 3 that I serve that are over 5,000. So these organizations, and there's over 40 of them that I've counted, there's probably more. My eyesight ain't what it used to be. But there's over 40 organizations that are going to be devastated by this. And I'll just list a few. Let's pick the city of Albany, the Albany Fire Department, the Albany JCs, the Albany Lions Club. You got Holdingford, American Legion. There's a number of American Legions. I'm not going to name them all because it's over double digits in the amount of American Legions that do gambling to help our communities. I remember when I was doing a junior firefighter program, I needed funding because I didn't have it in my fire marshal budget to do a junior firefighter program to teach 4th grade kids how to be fire safe. So who did I go to? I went to the local VFW
to find funding for that. And where did it come out of? Came out of charitable gambling funds. You got the Lions clubs. You got the Optimus clubs. More fire departments. The Aquatic Association. More fire departments. The baseball clubs. The hockey. It goes on and on. Athletic booster associations. The humane societies. More fire departments. The moose clubs. There's Old Pool Baseball. North Star Fire and Rescue. Sportsmen's clubs. Members, these are the folks that small organizations go to try and find the funds to put hockey skates on kids that can't afford it, to buy helmets for kids, to buy jerseys so they look the same when they play baseball, youth baseball. That's who does this. That's why this bill needs to go back. This conference committee report needs to go back, and that needs to be taken out. No public input. We just decided to do it because someone thought it was a great idea. Not all great ideas should become law. And I would argue this isn't a great idea. This is a terrible idea that someone didn't think all the way through. Members, send it back. Let's help our small organizations survive. This is a power grab. We know where it comes from. Let's put it back. Let's reject this conference committee report and rethink where this is going. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Weber, as the last voice we hear before we vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I mentioned earlier, there are a number of comments I wish to make about this bill, and many of those comments I will save till the third reading. However, the main reason that I arose today to offer this message to reject the conference committee report really stems, again, on the e-poll tab provision, the manner in which it was injected into the bill. I think it's important for us, Mr. President, to consider a little bit of history as it relates to the e-poll tabs. I wasn't here when the U.S. Bank Stadium was built, but it was that e-poll tab provision that was one of the means by which the state would pay for its share of that project. When this was first started, there was great concern. Actually, that concern was present when I arrived into the Senate in 2013, because there was no great usage of the e-poll tabs. There was a lack of usage that was creating very dismal tax returns, and quite frankly, those entrepreneurs that had these machines in their establishments were actually losing money. It did not work. But then they came up with these changes to the system that, quite frankly, people began to like and people began to use. And now, all of a sudden, this year, we are making an early payoff of the stadium debt because it was successful. At the end of the day, there are those who say, well, you can't claim that this is going to reduce the income to our charities. Well, if it was these features that helped increase the popularity of this program, and you now take those features away, it's a pretty safe assumption to say that that income is going to go down. It is a pretty safe assumption to say that their income will be reduced. It is a pretty safe assumption to say that the children of Minnesota will suffer as a result of this provision. Sometimes the issues that we are involved with here in the Senate have a geographical tone to them. It affects one area more than another. But, Mr. President, this issue is not one of those. This issue is going to negatively affect the children of our rural districts, of our suburban districts, and of our inner city districts. Because as you look at the Minnesota Gambling Board's list of active lawful gambling organizations that was handed out and is on your desks, you'll see that all of our communities are affected. From the children in Senator Draheim's district to my grandchildren's school districts here in the suburbs. They all receive the benefit of charitable gambling. And this provision and this bill will hurt them. In conference committee yesterday, the House chair said, when I asked about whether there was a revenue estimate, she says, well, I'm not going to get an estimate that deals in hypotheticals. Mr. President, every revenue estimate we have deals with hypotheticals. That was one of the most ridiculous reasons I have ever heard, to not sit down and actually think about what this provision does. Senator Rest was right. There was no discussion of this. This is a decision that was handed down by the governor and leadership, and quite frankly, they didn't think about anything other than the political ramifications of this. Oh, there was an amendment made yesterday, Mr. President. That amendment extends the effective date of this till the end of next year. And what is the effective result of that? Oh, yes. We just pushed it off till after the elections next year, after the House has to stand for re-election and face the results of this in their communities. This is, Mr. President, politics at its worst. We have shown a lack of respect for our charitable gaming organizations. We have shown a lack of respect for the children that profit from these. We have shown a lack of respect for all the other organizations within our communities that rely on the funds that are generated by these activities. Mr. President, we have time. And we have the time to correct this injustice that is being done. Vote green.
The Secretary will take the roll on the motion to reject the conference committee report. Members, please vote. Senate voting. For those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report that Senator Herr votes no.
Senator Herr votes no.
Senator Mann votes no.
Senator Mann votes no.
And Senator Port votes no.
Senator Port votes no. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Duckworth votes aye.
Senator Duckworth votes aye.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lang votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye. Members, please vote. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 34 noes, the motion to reject the conference committee report does not prevail. The secretary will take the roll on the motion to adopt the committee report. A roll call was requested and a roll call was granted. Senator Bowden, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report that Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Mann votes aye.
Senator Mann votes aye.
And Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye. Members, as a gentle reminder, in between votes, if you stay near the chambers, that would be helpful for us to keep going forward. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Duckworth votes no.
Say it one more time, Senator.
Senator Duckworth votes no.
Senator Duckworth votes no.
Senator Lang votes no.
Senator Lang votes no. Members, all senators having voted who desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 34 ayes and 33 noes, the motion to adopt the committee report prevails. The secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 1938, a bill for an act relating to financing and operation of state and local government, modifying provisions governing individual income and corporate franchise taxes, etc.
Third reading. Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was looking through the bill, and I know that every time we get a bill, the people bringing the bill are going to talk about all the good things, and the ones who oppose the bill are going to have to dig in and look out for the people of Minnesota and find the bad things. So I have two questions for Senator Rest, if she would yield.
Senator, you asked the author to yield?
Yes,
Senator
Mr.
Rest, will you
President.
yield? She will yield. Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Rest. With all the talk that's going on here, my two questions are not probably even going to be comparable, but they're things that I would like to know. In Section 29 of the bill, where we're looking at land values, and it said it requires the Commissioner of Revenue, in consultation with the Department of Natural Resources and counties, to produce a report on the valuation methods for acreage. And the question, Senator Rest, is why is the DNR included in this? They're not experts in valuing land, and so I'm just wondering how that got in there.
Senator Rest, when you're ready.
Mr. President, my understanding that the DNR is going to study these evaluations to affirm that the PILT payments are accurate and correct.
Senator Green.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Rest. I appreciate the answer, but I don't like the answer. I think that the DNR is, as I've stated many times in Greater Minnesota, the DNR is a four-letter word, and we don't trust them to do very much of anything. So I'm sorry to see that in there. But I just have one more question, Mr. President, if she would yield.
Senator Rest, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Rest. And two, I know that I had brought some provisions to you for the tax bill regarding some provisions for sales tax, or excuse me, not sales tax, but to allow them to vote to increase their levies to pay for the new jail, for instance, in Bemidji, and then another one in Black Duck. And even though I don't like these things, my city's asked me to bring them, so I did, and I appreciate you taking them. But there is one thing that did not get included, and I assure you, Senator Rest, I'm not trying to hammer on you. I'm just curious. There was one thing that I did support was sales tax exemption for construction materials. And in the bill, there's for the Northern Lights Academy and the Northern Learning Center Academy and the Oakdale, and it goes on for construction projects that I would consider not to be, for the most part, essential. But in the county of Beltrami, the state is closing down their jail, and their back's against the wall, and that's why they wanted the permission to ask for the levy increase. But is there a reason that the sales tax exemption was excluded?
Senator Rest to the question.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Green. The Beltrami prison sales tax exemption was in every offer that the Senate made, and the House absolutely refused to agree.
Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Rest. That's kind of what I thought. I don't understand that. I think that it was, I don't know, petty, I guess, for that to happen. There's no reason for that. But the bill itself, looking at the bill and trying to read through it, trying to keep up on it with all the changes that happened, I'm actually glad I was not on the conference committee. I can't imagine a worse place to be. However, the bill is just riddled with too many tax increases. I find it slightly disingenuous to say we're giving tax breaks and tax relief when on the back end we're increasing taxes everywhere. Even on something as small as the PILT. I use it because it's a perfect example that the PILT is the payment in lieu of taxes for property taxes that you mentioned, with the DNR wanting to be involved in that. And it's not tax relief, and what it is, the government can't give you anything they haven't already taken from you. And so what we do is we increase taxes, generally way more than we would need to, because we have to pay for agencies and we have to pay for all the bureaucracy, really. And then we'll say, hey, we'll give you a small tax relief, when in reality, we're actually harming everybody. And this bill, with all the things that are in it, including the subject that was talked probably most out here, was for the e-pull tabs. This is really going to hurt us, and it's going to hurt Greater Minnesota, and I can't support the bill. Thank you.
Senator Grudenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah. A couple things I just wanted to say yet. Number one, corporation, we think we're going to tax these evil corporations. The problem is the corporation in the end doesn't pay taxes. They just tack it on to the price of their products. So, this bill, again, goes in the wrong direction. Secondly, it's important to understand where we get tax revenue from, meaningful growth of tax revenue. And really, there's only 3 areas that tax revenue grows from. And that's if you manufacture a product that somebody buys or sells, or buys. Number 2, you grow something, like our farmers. You grow crops or animals or whatever. And the third way is mining or drilling for something. Those are the only 3 ways to generate wealth and grow the pie, the economic pie. A lot of the other stuff is simply shifting money back and forth from those 3 areas. Now, we've lived at a time of great technological advancements, which increases productivity. So productivity can increase tax revenue also. So, let's say in 1945, it took 100 people to make 100 widgets. Well, today, you maybe only need 1 or 2 people to make 100 widgets. That increases economic pie also. But again, there's only those 3 ways that actually grow the economic pie for the benefit of our children and grandchildren and even ourselves. The problem is when we look at Minnesota's tax code and we look at the budget bills that have been coming through here, including this one, which we're raising taxes $2.2 billion, and then overall budget of the Democrats is raising taxes between $9 and $10 billion, and I think that's without the gas tax that they're thinking of bringing forward. It's the wrong direction, okay? And the result is that we are going to actually hurt ourselves and our children and grandchildren with the direction we're going in this tax bill. The last thing I'd like to comment on is the difference between dynamic and static scoring in this tax bill. See, in Minnesota, we score things statically. That means that if we cut taxes, $2 billion, we're going to receive $2 billion less in tax revenue. Dynamic scoring takes into account that if you cut taxes $2 billion, you increase private sector revenue and you actually get additional tax revenue. So the problem with this tax bill is that we're, under static, like one tax accountant told me, under static, you're going to be precisely wrong in terms of fiscally scoring the bill. Under dynamic, you're going to be precisely or approximately right. So members, when we look at this bill, if we were to score this dynamically, we'd see that it has a huge negative effect, along with the rest of the budget, Democratic budget, on the state of Minnesota. Sending up stop signs around our state, don't do business in Minnesota, and if you do, you should consider leaving. So members, let's vote red and send this bill back to the conference committee for the benefit of our children, grandchildren, on both sides of the aisle, and even for ourselves. Please vote red. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a wonderful bill, and Senator Resk and her team did such an amazing job. I would like to highlight especially the child tax credit. $1.5 billion to our families, estimated to reduce child poverty by 1/3. 1/3 a reduction in child poverty in Minnesota. And yet, we've heard some people here today clearly say they don't plan to vote against it or vote for it because our children will suffer, our kids will losing out. They plan to vote against something that would reduce child poverty. And they made those quotes mostly in reference to the charitable gambling. This has been something I've been talking to my constituents and as a military member, the veterans that I have close ties to since the beginning of the session. And I think this is a wonderful way to work out a situation that we shouldn't have been in today. Because if you look at the current law, which for those that don't have it up about the charitable gambling is statute 349.12 subdivision 12B, the current law clearly states that a player must activate or open each electronic pull tab and each individual line, and that there cannot be representations that mimic a video slot machine. And unfortunately, since that was passed in 2012, some of the gaming makers and some of the commissions and quite frankly, some of the lobbyists have decided to go forward and flout that law. And so what we're doing in this is a correction to get these games back to where they should have been in the first place. And instead of just talking about that course correction, some of the lobbyists have been doing things like trying to pit our tribes against our veterans. And the veterans I've spoken to are disgusted by that. And the same thing with our charities. What they did tell me is that the companies that help provide these games and got us in this place in the first place by making games that were not compliant can charge up to 40% of the proceeds. So if your charity gets $10,000, these gaming companies are taking $4,000 of that right off the top. And that's why we're getting so much misinformation, because part of what this bill does is it caps those proceeds, and they are not happy. So now more of that money can go directly to the charities. It also gives them a year and a half to develop new compliant games. So not only do we have a chance that these games are still going to be just as fun and make just as much money, but now the charities will be able to keep more of that, both from the companies that distribute, but also from our taxes ourselves. And someone said it was only 1% relief, but that's minimum. It's tiered. Some places will take home even more than that. So there's a chance under this that not only did we leave them in a good place, even if there's a little reduction with the extra money that they'll take home, but if the games make the same amount, our charities are going to bring home even more. So, Mr. President, I wanted to clarify that, because I would never leave our veterans out in the cold. And we are going to work with them to make sure that they and all of our charities are in a good position. And above all, kids will not be losing out. Children will not suffer, either under the charitable gaming or under this amazing child tax credit that is going to lift children out of poverty. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson, your mic is not working.
Okay.
Okay, there it is now.
There it is. All right. Thank you, Mr. President. I thought I was going to get to use one of those funky colored mics up there that you brought in today. So first, members, I am glad the mics are working. I want to thank Senator Rest for running a well-run committee, one that was inclusive and thoughtful. I also want to thank her for including a couple provisions that are incredibly important to my constituents. One is the TIF district for Chatfield, modifying the TIF requirements so that that community can move forward with some exciting development. And then also the opportunity for the city of Rochester to go to its voters and propose a local sales tax. I think those are important provisions, and I'm glad to see them in the bill. I'm also glad to see a lot of provisions, many provisions, quite frankly, that were in the 2022 Tax Conference Committee. Unfortunately, history will recall that the House refused to bring that up. But many of those provisions are there, and they are important. There's many of them, and there's also some new provisions that I think are important, which is the public safety aid. I appreciate that. I am concerned, however, that it's one-time money, and it does remind me a little bit of the Clinton cops that that were a great thing at the time, but then when that money goes away, it's a difficult thing. But it should go without saying, and I think everyone in our state knows that for the last few years, our public safety have been really under assault, understaffed, and in great need. So I greatly appreciate additional funding coming to our public safety, our police specifically. But there are, as we've seen so much this year, that there are great bipartisan bills, but then they have these highly partisan controversial provisions in them that really make them untenable. And there's a few provisions in the bill today that are going to not allow me to vote for the many other provisions in the bill. And specifically, the tax increases. My constituents cannot understand, I cannot understand how a state that has a $20 billion surplus when we start here in January now comes back with, in this particular bill, $2.2 billion of tax increases. Minnesotans can't understand that. I can't understand that. And so it will be very difficult to move forward with that. Also, those tax provisions, interestingly enough, some of them fall upon, well, all income taxpayers will lose some of their deductions at certain income levels, and so that's unfortunate. And of course, as we know here in this state, we have one of the most highly taxed, we're like number 50 in the state for business taxation. And the problem with that is businesses can move. We want them to stay here. We want the jobs. We want them to pay those business taxes here. So I'm concerned about the business taxes in this report. And then two things that have been mentioned, I'd be remiss. I won't go over it clearly again, but certainly the sudden add of changing the taxation on charitable gaming is welcome, that 1% little change, but to literally change their ability to operate the games that they have been operating successfully now in the last few years, and limiting their ability to fulfill their missions of supporting youth, veterans, fire, in our districts is definitely concerning. And as a member of the Pension Commission, I will say that it is really troubling to do pension policy by an amendment to a tax bill without, it should have gone through the Pension Commission. Certainly there would have been time to do that, and it puts us on a rocky road with something as complex and as important as pensions. And so those two provisions, I think, were troubling adds at the end of session, and were not given the due diligence that they were needed. So members, I will be voting no on this bill. In spite of the good provisions included, the troubling ones, the $2.2 billion of tax increases, stripping away our charitable gaming opportunities, and the not taking pensions through the Pension Commission. Support the work there, but not the fact that it did not go through the Pension Commission. Thank you.
Senator Coran.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against the tax bill. In a time of $19 billion surpluses, certainly looking at something, and just one component of the tax increase is coming to all Minnesotans. But I'd like to thank Senator Rest. We know she works diligently and she works extremely hard. I don't think most Minnesotans have any idea what that tax bill could look like if we didn't have a Senator Rest being that chair. It would be far worse than it is today. There's many provisions in there that we know she's struggled with and fought for and tried to represent Minnesotans. But others prevailed, even in her own bill, and she's one of the strongest voices. When we look at it, we've got a variety of tax increases, a whole pile of spending. And when you look at spending in the local government, it sounds great. There's some local government aid necessary, but you look at 30% increase. We just came off local governments receiving, and in Minnesota, under the COVID years, $80 billion in addition to the almost $100 billion we spent from Minnesota state government, being contributed to the growth of government. It's allowed government to grow at an exponential rate. This budget and every bill this year is going to solidify that. We call it the tails, but it's ongoing spending and further costs to the base cost of government, and that comes out of every single citizen and business and hardworking taxpayer in this state. creating an environment. I don't know if anybody's seen a chart lately, but we're not at the top of the charts from a business-friendly environment. The job investors, if you haven't paid any attention, this bill is going to make Wisconsin look exponentially more investable than Minnesota. And they're not a low-cost state. Those development dollars in capital, we need them. They're jobs. They're the job producers, job providers. It's economic vitality. It's life. Every facet of our life depends on a healthy job environment. And I don't see any of that in any bill that we've had this year so far. When you think about the jobs and who's investing those dollars, putting everything they have at risk of their own money to create opportunity, those are the very people that are attacked in every single bill that we've seen this year. Certainly in this bill, because somebody believes that somebody else is not paying their fair share. It's also the group that's the most mobile. I think we've seen all across the country. The most mobile move and choose if they can. And for tax purposes, they've got many options, and those options are growing. They don't have to go very far. When we talk about the things that are in tax credits, child care credits and increase, those are great. But to believe that any of those things are going to fundamentally change the trajectory of poverty based on everything we've seen this year, it's a short-term relief. Believe me, I spent just under 18 years at the Department of Revenue. We've looked at those and studied those. None of them have uplifted and provided a way out. In fact, I think it only perpetuates the dependency and creates a ceiling. Many of our policies will do that. Then we move on to the rest of the taxes. It in itself is a burden which is direct, but I don't think most taxpayers even understand. They understand the pain is a lot, it feels like a lot, and that's likely because they don't feel they get great value. But do they really know and understand the level of taxation and the compounding effect of the direct tax of the one they think they understand? If you look at the totality of what we've seen, the assault on the business producers and the costs that will be brought and borne through the various levels of production, on the regulatory side and the new policies and the weaponization of state government against the job producers in this state, it will dwarf the tax increases in all of the bills. That makes Minnesota a much less friendly environment to operate, much less friendly environment to expand your businesses, and that means economic disparity and despair for every hardworking family who wants to be here and work and produce and raise a great family. Then we get on charitable gaming. To take a swing at them, to the organization, this is statewide, I would differ on the previous statement that our veterans organizations are excited about having their revenue, the things that provide the core funding to provide our VFWs and our veterans facilities, the core operating revenue that they need to just exist. All across the state, we have hundreds, thousands of, I think Senator Jasinski talked about. I have 20. Doesn't sound like a lot, but they're veterans, provides their basic services. Our Lions clubs, they contribute to our parks and rec and youth sports. Somebody that needs a pair of glasses, veterans service ramp. All of those things are local dollars, the best local dollar that can be spent and used wisely. Then we get to our fire departments, a critical vital service. Just one fire department we have, Chisago City. They have a $750,000 fire truck being delivered next year. Half of that was paid by their charitable gaming organization. Who will pay those costs? Who will provide those services? Those dollars dwarf the total time, if you added to what the value of their donation of their labor and their time and their commitment to every facet of the community. It's not just in law enforcement or firefighting. They're in every aspect. They're the leaders in every single organization that serves all the needy in every one of our communities. In fact, just last year, those charitable organizations paid $180 million in taxes. We just heard about what it was like that the people who provide the technology also make money, but they provide the technology and the infrastructure that enable it. But we didn't have a problem with out of that $180 million that the state received to support a stadium for billionaires, that the local charities only had $130 million to provide. It's vital. That $130 million is critical. But nobody seems to have a problem with that. That the state received a benefit far greater. But I guess it's okay. Now the stadium's taken care of. That debt's paid off. And we've thrown all those organizations under the bus. I think it'd be just better if Minnesota's been up for sale. It would have been nice if those charities knew what it would have cost them to save, and maybe they would have made a contribution as well. Minnesota, this is bad for you as a citizen, bad for you as a job provider. Our communities will suffer. We let this go through. The lack of transparency and the number of issues that are included in these bills without a single hearing and public testimony doesn't lead us to transparency. I've heard many times, I think the governor of the state said he's been one of the most transparent people we've had. I would argue that's a complete bold-faced lie. And, Mr. President, for these reasons and a host of others, I think we should vote this bill down and send it back to the beginning. Thank you.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, Mr. President, I want to just talk about a couple of things that I appreciate in this bill. There are two provisions. One is a child tax credit, and that was a bipartisan effort to put more money in the pockets of Minnesota families, and as we've heard today, help reduce child poverty. I am disappointed, however, that we begin the phase-outs at such a low level, and that we are going to leave a lot of needy families, a lot of Minnesota families that are struggling with inflation, to actually realize a benefit from this program. And I appreciate that there's a tax increment provision that will help develop a parcel of land in Scott County. It's an old gravel pit, 80-foot deep hole that is blocking development for one of the fastest growing counties in the nation, and so really needs to be developed. As we've talked about the need for housing, this will be an important part of helping families in Scott County find housing. But Mr. President, and there's a lot that I am concerned about with this bill. Now, I understand the concerns of the tribes regarding e-pull tabs. Unfortunately, this bill goes far beyond just simple reform and takes away options that are available on the paper tabs. Our local charities, as Senator Jasinski said, are going to suffer. And Mr. President, just very, very quickly, to let you know who's going to be hurt. The Jordan Fire Department Relief Association, Jordan Pride Booster Club. We've got the Shakopee Lions Club. As you know, Lions help people find eyeglasses. The Rotary Club, Shakopee Rotary Club, which does a lot of great work in our community. The Prior Lake Hockey Association, the Prior Lake Savage Optimist Club. Mr. President, the Optimist Club is doing some terrific work in partnering with our school district to provide opportunities for kids. The Prior Lake Lions Club, Prior Lake Savage Hockey Association, the Prior Lake Water Ski Association, VFW Post 246 in Savage, the VFW Post 4046 in Shakopee, Mr. President, VFW Post 6208 in Prior Lake. And I can tell you, let me talk about some of these VFW posts and how they are such centerpieces in our community. You know, it's always interesting that when our community comes together, it's the VFW post in Prior Lake that always seems to be the place where we meet to help them with their operations. This is going to hurt them. And Mr. President, one I especially want to pull out is American Legion Post number 2 in Shakopee. Members, this is an American Legion post. It is the first American Legion post in the state of Minnesota. It was founded in June of 1919. Now, post number 1 was reserved for a future post to open up in Minneapolis-St. Paul, so it's funny that Shakopee post number 2 is the first post, the American Legion post in the state of Minnesota. And they are going to be hurt by this. And the tremendous work that they do in our community. With a record surplus, some Minnesotans will get $260 back. But Democrats ran to eliminate the Social Security tax. And at the end of this bill, we are still going to be only one of 11 states that still taxes Social Security benefits. With an $18 billion surplus and what would have been a $5 billion structural surplus before we passed all these outrageous spending bills. And Mr. President, just remind the public, a structural surplus means that had we done nothing, our surplus would have continued to rise $5 billion a year. This tax bill will increase taxes on Minnesotans $2.9 billion over the next 4 years. And when you look at all the bills and the new taxes and fees that are being contemplated, with an $18 billion surplus, Mr. President, we are going to tax Minnesotans an extra $3 billion a year when you look at all of the bills, all of the fee increases, all of the tax increases that will be in the transportation bill, that were in the paid family medical leave bill, that were in the jobs bill. All of these will hurt entrepreneurship, will hurt job creation, will hurt Minnesota families. So, Mr. President, while I appreciate the local initiatives and the child care tax credit, I'm going to urge members to vote no. This should have been sent back to conference committee. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that with an $18 billion surplus, we are raising taxes a near record amount. A record amount, if I understand it correctly. A record amount on Minnesotans. Please vote no.
Senator Friends.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members. I want to start by thanking Senator Rest and the entire group that worked on taxes in both parties. It's an outstanding bill. It's going to have my support. I know for some of my friends across the aisle, Senator Weber, Senator Jasinski, Senator Draheim, that we have disagreed in the years we've served together, but I bet we do agree on this. We want the best for our children. We want the best for the activities that they engage in, and in particular, we want the best for their opportunities in youth sports. I thought about the year I coached 5-year-olds when I was 9, Mr. President, and I realized I've been doing this 50 years. Parent, coach, administrator, helping kids to enjoy it. It's the same as music and drama. They love it, they engage, it helps them in school, and it helps them find something they like. In our town, we have a saying, the kids lead you where they want to go. I've enjoyed being the president of our Youth Football Association, over 700 kids. They love it, we love watching them love it, and everybody knows it. And so, as the question of the electronic poll tabs and its impact on youth sports arose this session, starting, in my opinion, on April 19th, when the House held full hearings with full testimony on the issue, I've been in touch with our charitable organizations, including those that sponsor youth sports, hockey, baseball, all the ones we have in all our districts. And this week I had a chance to talk to the gambling managers, and I think that's what we should do. We should approach our constituents when we're talking about things they like and things they have concerns about. Mr. President, what they said is, hey, we're hearing that your tax bill ends electronic poll tab gambling and will devastate the charitable organizations, things that are similar to what I've heard on the floor here, Mr. President. And so I've said to them, well, the bill provides $61 million of tax cuts for our charitable organizations. And what they've said is, oh, I didn't hear that. And I said, and it also caps the distributor fees. That's the money that the manufacturers get so that the charitable organizations will pay less for that. And the gambling manager said, oh, I didn't hear that. I explained to them the audit provisions, which changed the way the burden of the audits fall on these charitable organizations. And they said, I didn't hear that. And then finally, Mr. President, what I told them is that the changes that make the games that are being played now
unavailable for our charitable organizations do not take effect until December 31st, 2024. And then there was a silence on the line. And they said one final time, Mr. President. I had not heard that either. And the reason I share that with you members is as we engage with our constituents on the things we agree on and the things we don't agree on that much. While I'm positive we agree on the value of youth sports, on Minnesota youth, and all the things it offers, I hope we'll be careful to present the full picture to our charitable organizations about what's in this bill, because we all get something out of that. And I'll tell you something else, Mr. President. The day I thought I was going to vote for a piece of legislation that would prevent one child from engaging in the sport or music or drama of their choice, I would just say that day has not ever been in this chamber. It's not going to be in this chamber today, and it will not be any day I serve in the Minnesota Senate. I'll be a yes vote on this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Jaskowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thank Senator Rest for her leadership, Mr. President. She is a very honorable member of this body. She is super duper intelligent. She is an admirable colleague and a friend. And she has assembled a tax committee of some really wonderful legislators. And so I thank them for that and for their collegiality. I will say, though, the product that has come out here is not good. This bill in front of us robs Peter 2.2 billion times to pay Paul. Members, the policy that robs Peter to pay Paul is always supported by Paul, every time. Unfortunately, this policy also incentivizes sloth while discouraging work. Members, that is the wrong direction for a culture. That is the wrong direction for success. That is not the direction of strength, but weakness. This bill makes us a weaker state. Members, this bill will encourage productive people to leave. Productive people will expedite their immigration from Minnesota. This bill will make our state a dimmer place to live and slow our pace dramatically. Members, don't rob Peter 2.2 billion times to pay Paul. Don't hurt Minnesota. Don't hurt Minnesota's future. Vote no.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make this one shorter than last time because I know you didn't like my list last time, but I'll make it short. I want to thank Senator Rest for her work on this bill and her leadership. I always say I have the most respect for Senator Rest. I wish there were more senators like Senator Rest on the other side of the aisle. One thing I'd like to thank both Senator Rest and Senator Dietzick is the historical tax credit. That's a huge provision. I had a bill, and it was the co-author of Senator Dietzick's bill, which was a bipartisan bill, folks, a bipartisan bill. Boy, wouldn't it be nice to have more of those in this bill. I also want to thank Senator Rest for the Rice County Law Enforcement allows a local option sales tax for our law enforcement center. That will go to the voters this fall to decide if they want to put that as a local option sales tax. So thank you for that. I still have huge concerns over many other things. The ETAB bill is probably the #1 concern. No public input, got put in the middle of the night. That's not the way we should be doing things around here, and everybody knows it. Everybody complains about it. It should not be being done that way. Not only you got 1,050 some nonprofits, but every single little bar and restaurant and area that sells pull tabs is going to be dramatically affected by this. I don't agree with the other side that's saying they're not going to be, because all the calls and all the emails and all the phone calls and texts that I receive, it's going to have a negative impact on everybody. Hundreds and thousands of people are going to be affected negatively by the ETABs. So concerns with that. Because of the increases, I will not be able to vote in favor of it, but really, really appreciate Senator Rest and her leadership and my utmost respect for Senator Rest. So thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hoschow.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I just want to say a deep thank you to Chair Rest, the nonpartisan staff and partisan staff that helped us on the tax committee. I've said this a time or two, but as a freshman, it has been the most rewarding experience, my time here in the legislature, both serving on the tax committee and on the conference committee. I want to talk a little bit about what makes Minnesota special and what makes the Midwest special. You know, we're a place that is Minnesota nice. People refer to us as Minnesota nice. And growing up, you know, I never really saw that. You don't see it when you're just living it day in and day out. But I did move away from the Midwest for about 4 years and lived on the East Coast. And I quickly realized what it's like living in a community that doesn't have that same type of culture of going out of our way to help each other when we need it most. And after moving home, I quickly realized what a special place we have here in Minnesota. And I think we go out of our way to help each other when we need it most because we know that we all could be eventually in a place when we need help from our neighbors, from our friends, from family, but also complete strangers. And I want to talk about why do we focus our efforts on the people who need help? Why does Peter pull over to help Paul when he's stuck in a snowbank? Because he's stuck. Why does Peter get up from his chair when an elder gentleman named Paul needs a spot to sit? Because Peter can handle standing a little bit while Paul gets a seat that he needs. Why does Peter donate clothing and shoes to a young man named Paul, who maybe can't afford the shoes and has cold feet? These things are obvious to us because we go out of our way to help people when they need it most. And this tax bill is a values document. It lives up to our Minnesota nice values of making sure that we have each other's back. My primary focus throughout this session has been to help our youngest, our wisest, and also to keep our communities strong and safe. The child tax credit in this bill is going to go to folks with incomes up to $90,000 a year to help children and reduce poverty based on estimates by 33%. We're going to provide Social Security tax relief to 85% of seniors in Minnesota. 85%. Now, while I fully support the elimination of the tax on Social Security income, I can bet you if I had a conversation with the 15% of seniors at the top income percentiles, they would say, golly, I really think we can provide child tax credits to reduce childhood poverty rather than giving tax cuts to the very top. We're providing historic $300 million in public safety dollars to our communities. Everyone agrees here that we need to have strong and safe communities, and this tax bill is providing that relief directly to our communities to do that. In my community of Hermantown, I know for a fact that that money can help them afford moving their volunteer fire department to a full-time fire department. We're providing local government aid and county program aid and PILT aid to our local county governments and city governments so that they can provide property tax relief, so that they can fund more police on their streets, so that they can fund critical community centers in their communities. The formula for LGA and CPA is a thoughtful formula that gives the money where it's needed. Not every community gets LGA and CPA. The reason we have the formula the way it is because we make sure that it's given to the places that really need it, just like the rest of this values document we have in front of us with this tax bill. Why are we giving $14 million to the community of Windham? Because they need it, because one of their biggest employers may be going out. That's a value. We're providing relief to a community in need. We're not providing that $14 million to every community. That'd be impossible. But we're providing it where it's needed. That's what this tax bill is. It's providing relief where we need it. We're going to provide tribal aid for the first time in our state to our partners in our tribal nations. They have some of the highest poverty in our state. What a better way to target relief for people that need it. There's a theme here, folks. In Minnesota, we're nice to each other. In Minnesota, we know that having each other's back makes us all stronger. Let's vote yes on this tax bill and target our relief to make our state the best state in the country to raise a family. Vote green, members. Thank you.
Members, just a friendly reminder, our list is growing. Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be so fast. I just want to give everybody one last chance to remember that voting no is voting against $300 million for public safety aid. And I heard some discussion about volunteer firefighters. Remember that fire departments are eligible for this money. Some of you will be voting no against over $12 million of public safety aid in your own community. Thankfully, the DFL majority will make sure that those towns and those counties and those tribal nations will get the money they deserve, but it is important to remember what you're also voting against. So just remember, this is a really good bill. It's going to help out seniors, it's going to help out charities, it's going to help out families and children. This is a good bill. Vote green.
We're going to go now. The list is expanding. We're going to Senator Kunesh, Senator Putnam, Senator Howell. Then we're going to get to Senator Weber, and then we're going to get to Senator Rest. In that order, Senator Kunesh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to thank Senator Rest and all of those who worked so hard to right a wrong to our Minnesota tribes. It has not often been the practice of state and federal government to recognize and correct broken promises. This bill does. Chi'miigwech Wopilatanka.
Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just two quick comments. One, I want to thank Senator Rest for everything that's in this bill that's good for agriculture. We haven't talked about the beginning farmer tax credit or the homestead market exclusion. Both of those things are wonderful things for greater Minnesota and for agriculture. I also want to take this opportunity to apologize to Senator Jasinski for having to see my face in his bar. I apologize that had to happen to him, but when we actually think about how math works, we realize that my vote is not the only vote that matters in here. Every individual's in here, their vote matters. And we've heard a great deal about Peter and Paul, but we're forgetting about Mary. There's always a third option. And what we have done with this issue around e-pull tabs is find a reasonable compromise. I have fought hard on behalf of charities throughout this entire session, but we have resulted in a reasonable compromise that will keep the charities whole and will keep our promises well. Members, I urge a green vote.
Senator Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And I do want to thank Senator Rest for including in here the spousal benefit modification for the disabled veterans' spouses. We've been trying to do that for a few years, and thankfully this will right a wrong for those spouses that had a 100% disabled veteran that should have got the exclusion for the taxes, and because of a little typographical error, in my opinion, we didn't dot the I's and cross the T's, and there was a loophole. There was a hole left in there where less than a dozen spouses fell through, and they lost their property tax exemption. This rights that wrong, allows them to reapply and get that back. The other thing is we had some local option sales tax. We had it for Avon, St. Joe, Stearns County, so I greatly appreciate including them. But this could have been so much better, folks. With the tax increases and the e-pull tab information in there, the messing with those games, I think, is a disaster. So with that, members, I truly wanted to see a good tax bill. This does have good provisions, but I do believe that the provisions for the e-pull tabs, the pension thing, even though it's good, it should have went through the Pension Commission. Members, I am disappointed that I can't support this tax provisions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I would certainly like to extend my thanks to nonpartisan staff, Nora Pollack, Eric Sylvia, Casey Mumm, Bjorn Arneson. They are truly exceptional, helpful. Whether you are a majority or a minority member, they are indispensable. I thank Dan Mickelberg, Republican researcher, Krista Broughton, DFL researcher, Committee Administrator Mitch Berggren, Committee Legislative Assistant Christy Blood, my Legislative Assistant Lamont Paikkanen. All of you have been most helpful during this session. And also, I wish to thank Senator Rest. She has certainly been a great colleague to work with as I worked as a lead on the Tax Committee. And she has extended, I believe, an example to this entire body of how to run a nonpartisan operation, a bipartisan operation. She has been willing to work with people on both sides of the aisle. She has been gracious in her assistance. And there are many provisions that are in this tax bill that are excellent provisions. Specifically, I would like to thank Senator Rest on behalf of the people of Windham. The assistance that she provided me in developing a bill that was included in the tax conference report for the what-if situations that develop there has been so much appreciated, and I will remember that forever. But as we look at this bill, we still have to come to the reality that we have a $17.5 billion surplus, $19 billion before the accounting change, and yet we have a $2.2 billion tax increase. Now, as we look at the different provisions within this bill, the Global Intangible Low Tax Income, GILTI, which, as I stated in conference committee yesterday, is probably a pretty good acronym. Probably a pretty good acronym for a lot of our taxes. When people say, well, don't worry about that, that's just on corporations. Well, you know, people, next time you go to the store, take a look at the manufacturer's label. Who makes that product? A corporation. And probably there's a good chance they have foreign operations. Do you think they're just going to absorb that tax, Mr. President? No. That will get passed on to the consumer. Whether you are low income, middle income, or high income, we will all get to pay that. We have $300 million in this bill for one-time public safety aid. One time. And yes, they will be able to use it for almost any equipment needs that they have. And yet, as you visit with our local government and when you visit with our public safety, one of their main problems these days is staffing. And there is nothing in here which allows them to provide for the ongoing hiring of additional people. As we look at this bill, as we look at the rebates, as we look at the Social Security provisions that are included, the one thing that stands out is that there are thousands and thousands of people in this state who contributed greatly to a historic surplus and who are receiving very little back. The homestead exemptions in this are increased for residential and agricultural property, and I appreciate that. It was part of a bill that I authored. The resort homesteads are not. Now, there is a shift when you start doing things like that, and I'm not going to go into a discussion about property taxes and shifts and those kind of things. But that could have been avoided. That shift could have been avoided because part of my bill also included a $35 million infusion from the state general levy that the state gets off of commercial, industrial, and seasonal recreational properties to offset that shift. But even with a $17.5 billion surplus, formerly 19 before the accounting change, we couldn't find $35 million to avoid that shift. Promises were made last year during the campaign. Many people that sit here in the majority promised to get rid of the state income tax on Social Security benefits. And you did not deliver on that promise. You got rid of it on part of it, but certainly not all of it. I've mentioned before, I spent 16 years in local government. And being a border community, we have seen businesses that were born and developed in our hometown move across state lines. As I look at this bill and many other bills that have went through this legislature this year, I see nothing that will prevent that from continuing to happen. I see nothing that will help those businesses and jobs remain in our communities, develop in our communities. And then we get to what has been one of the main topics today, the e-poll tabs. It was stated by a senator that, well, this bill was heard in April on the House floor. Mr. President, the bill that was heard in April, or not on the House floor, but in the House committee, when that bill was heard there, that was milquetoast compared to the language that is in this bill. He went on to state that he had met with members of the charitable gaming people in his community, and they didn't know about the amendment that took it to the end of next year. Well, no, they didn't know. Obviously, he had to visit with them since yesterday morning because that amendment never existed until yesterday morning. I am still maintain, and I will continue to maintain, that that provision is one of the worst examples of politics. I was encouraged by some to ask specific members of the majority what this provision means in their districts, because they are a deciding vote. I chose not to do that, Mr. President, because you see, every member of your caucus is a deciding vote. Any one of you has the ability to stop your charitable organizations and the recipients of the great work that they do from being hurt. And you can stand here and say that they will not be hurt by this bill, but I believe that that is not true. I talk to these people and they say, why do they hate us? I say, I don't know. I said, maybe it's because you do what government can't. You meet the needs of the people where they are. You do so willingly. And you do so without expecting anything back in return. Quite frankly, Mr. President, that's a quality that every legislator would do well to learn to do better. I regret that I cannot vote for this bill today. As appreciative as I am of all the features that are in there, I cannot vote for this bill because it does not help the people of Minnesota in the way that they deserve. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the caucus in regards to the tax bill today. First of all, before I get into that, I do want to recognize the work that was done with the tax committee and Senator Rest and Senator Weber, Senator Nelson, as well as the rest of the tax committee on this important piece of legislation. You know, it's often said in Minnesota it was so cold that the politicians have their hands in their own pockets for once. Well, apparently it's warmed up a little bit because when we're looking at this particular bill, as been stated over and over and over again, we're seeing some significant tax increases on this. $2.2 billion. As Senator Weber said early on, we campaigned on getting the surplus back to people. Democrats campaigned on that to some degree. Republicans were all in on getting that $19 billion back to Minnesotans. Cutting taxes, bringing the surplus back through some sort of rebates, ensuring that families' priorities were put on the forefront of this legislative session. That's what our state expects from us. That's leadership. That's putting people first before government, before special interests. But what we have in this bill, unfortunately, is another revenue raiser, another tax increase to ensure that government is well provided for, well provisioned. And throughout our bills, we see special interests being provided for, government, again, being provided for. Transportation, we have taxes on tabs, increases on tabs, on registration, on gas. On housing bill, we have almost $1 billion worth of sales tax increases. So when we talk about tax cuts in this bill, I think it's disingenuous. Look at the thing in totality. Somewhere around $9 to $10 billion of tax increases. I know that there's some credits that are given to families, and that'll be much appreciated for a lot of families in this state. But if you net that with the increases that families are going to have throughout their year, it's laughable. What's happening, folks, is that the tax increases, the costs that are going to impact your family are going to negate any sort of credit that you're going to get. Life is going to become more expensive for you going forward. That's the bottom line. You won't get to choose the priorities for your family. No, we're going to do that at the state government level. That's going to be our job now. This is so unfortunate. With an $18 billion budget surplus, that we're raising taxes, and we're going to have to go back and ask constituents, was it worth it? I think you're going to find that most constituents are going to say, what happened? You promised this money back, and you're not delivering. We offered a better plan. Senate Republicans wanted to get that money back. We wanted to lower taxes to Minnesota families who've been struggling with rising inflation. We gave our plan forward that way. Our tax bill would have benefited every Minnesotan with permanent ongoing tax relief. Look, we wanted to make sure that families were taken care of. We wanted to make sure that our communities thrived and grew. So I live on a border community up in northwest Minnesota, and I can tell you right now, the economic activity with businesses trying to open up in East Grand Forks or Moorhead or go up the river a little bit. More communities there. With the uncertainty that this creates, this session has created, you're not going to see business growth like you will on other side of the river, over in North Dakota. You're not going to see big manufacturers wanting to build and expand within the state, creating jobs, paying out wages, creating tax revenue for this state. No, they're going across the border again to North Dakota, to Tennessee, to Florida, to Texas, where families want to live and thrive in a way that they're not being overtaxed, where businesses are living and thriving in areas where they're not being overtaxed. This is going to have such a long-term detrimental impact to our state. I hope we can recover at some point. This is so unfortunate. We wanted to work bipartisanly, get bills done that work for all the state, but what you've seen is the most partisan session that I've ever seen in my 7 years. And when you go out to the hallway, you hear the same thing from longtime lobbyists, from longtime Capitol followers out there. Look, this has got to stop. We have got to start working together to make tax policy, to make regulation. We got to do things that work for the entire state, but we're not doing that. This is such a partisan approach to legislating. We need to take another look at this. Unfortunately, I cannot support this tax bill. We should have done better for Minnesota. Members, please vote red.
To the author of House File 1938, Senator Rest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to join my colleagues in thanking all of you who have worked on and contributed to this bill, actually including Senator Johnson. So I do believe in bipartisanship on our committee. I believe in openness. And good ideas do not have a D or an R after them. I want to join my colleagues again in thanking all of our staff. And I want to end where I began, and that is, this is the 2023 Top 10 bill. Number 1, the child tax credit. Thank you, Governor. Number 2, the renter's credit reform. Thank you, Minnesota House. Number 3, the rebate. Number 4, public safety aid. Number 5, the increase in LGA, CPA, the new tribal aid. Thank you, Representative Gomez. Number 6, 4D, low-income apartments increase, inability to provide that for Minnesota residents. Number 7, Social Security. Number 8, the local sales taxes, letting the people decide. Excuse me. Number 9, tax increment financing. Number 10, the changes in the e-pull tabs, the $61 million in tax relief, while affirming the 2012 deal and with the tribes and the charities. Please vote green.
The Secretary will take the roll on final passage of House File 1938. Senate voting for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report that Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Mann votes aye.
Senator Mann votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
And Senator Pa votes aye.
And Senator Pa votes aye. Senator Jasinski for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Duckworth votes no.
Senator Duckworth votes no.
Senator Lang votes no.
Senator Lang votes no. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 34 ayes and 33 noes, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Senator Dziedzic.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to recess here for about 45 minutes. DFL will caucus upstairs in our caucus room.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Republican will caucus in 323.
Senator Dziedzic.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we recess for the call of the chair, or about 45 minutes.
To that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is now in recess.